In this incident of the multiplication of the loaves and fish, Jesus reveals himself as the bread of life. Physically, they are hungry and Jesus fed them. Spiritually, Jesus shows himself as their spiritual food. By inviting them to follow him, he demonstrates how they can relate with God and with one another and to attain abundant life. In the letter to the Corinthians, St. Paul speaks of the institution of the Eucharist. If you pay attention, you realize that a few key words used in the narration of the multiplication and in the description of the institution of the Eucharist are the same. These words are: He took, He blessed, He broke, and He gave to them. So these words are actually Eucharistic gestures. There is a connection between the two events, definitely. Jesus is our bread of life, nourishing us, body and spirit, in our life and in our worship. Each time we celebrate the sacrament of the Eucharist, we receive Jesus. We are affirmed that Jesus is present and he wants to nourish us. So when we feel that the going is tough, we feel discouraged in life, we experience weaknesses, limitations, struggles, difficulties, and sometimes even despair, Jesus is present to strengthen us, to heal us. As St. Paul says, God's grace is sufficient for me. However, it does not mean that we just lay back and do nothing. We should give our best to tackle the problems of life. But the effort we put in may be just 5 loaves and 2 fish. Jesus can multiply them. As a result of his presence and actions, despite the great number of people gathered there, they all ate as much as they wanted. The scraps collected add up to 12 baskets. Give our best, and God will do the rest. When we receive Jesus, who is present in the Eucharistic celebration, we call it Holy Communion. We are in communion with Jesus. But that communion should flow to our day-to-day living. That's why this celebration is called the Mass. This word Mass actually is a translation of the Latin word Missa, which in the Latin Mass, this word is being used at the end of the celebration when the congregation is being sent forth. Go in peace. Experience the peace of Christ. So this ending, sending forth, Missa, translated to Mass, becomes the proper word of our celebration. It's a reminder to us that what we experience here in our worship are meant to also realize in our day-to-day living. Go and live out in our day-to-day life. To experience God's presence in all the events of our life and to realize that He is always one with us. Note also that that is her experience, his experience, their experience, and my experience. I am in communion with Jesus, so are you. And that communion with Jesus should also bind us, fellow Catholics, as one. So Holy Communion means not only my unity with Jesus, but also my unity with my fellow Catholics. I must also live that reality in my life. We must know, care, share, and love our fellow Catholics. However, we know that our congregation is big. It is practically impossible for us to get to know everyone and have that close proximity and interaction with everyone. But we can and we should belong to a small Christian community. A community that takes form as a ministry, as a few colleagues, Catholic colleagues gathered together, as a Catholic neighborhood, in whatever form, but let us group into 50. Symbolic word. Jesus asked the disciples to break that 5,000 people into groups of 50s. It is an invitation for us to be involved in a small Christian community. Today, as we celebrate this solemnity of the body and blood of Christ, we call it Corpus Christi in Latin. We are reminded of Jesus' presence in our life and the need for us to be close to Him. But we are also reminded to be close to one another. We can bring Jesus to people around us by the way we live Jesus in our daily life. Let us encourage one another, pray with one another, so that the presence of Jesus is being truly experienced by each and every one of us, and by us helping each other to experience His presence, His love, and His abundant life.